Welcome to the Hirshberg Entrepreneurship Institute. We will start our webinar in about 3 minutes. Thank you for joining us. We will start our webinar in about 1 minute. Thank you for joining the Hirshberg Entrepreneurship Institute's webinar series, Yes, We Can, Perspectives and Strategies for Success in 2021. In this webinar, we will be utilizing mostly the chat and the Q&A functions at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to ask questions for our panelists, please put it in the Q&A. You'll see that on the bottom of your screen. When you click on the button, a window will pop up. Type your question and hit send. You can keep the chat window open, but please reserve using the chat for any technical issues that may come up. Before we get started, we'd like to ask you a few questions. First of all, how long has your company been in existence? Is it new? Have you been in existence for about 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10, or maybe even over 10 years? And then what percentage of your sales was from D2C versus retail last year? And how much do you do your D2C sales direct from your website? And then finally, we just want to know if you're familiar with Social Nature and the services that they offer. Great, just keep them coming. Thanks for answering these. Looks like we have some companies that are just starting out, but we have some who've been around for a little while. Okay, we'll stop the polling in about 5 seconds. Great. Thank you. And here's the results of the polls. So we have some new folks and some not so new. Great. Well, thank you so much. And again, thanks for being here. And now I'd like to turn it over to Gary Hirshberg.
So let's just take another moment. Thank you, Carlene, and look a little bit further at the results. So we can see that over half have been with companies that are over 5 years old. Small number, actually under a year. And then look at the D2C numbers. Really interesting. That's we got a real mix here. Direct from the website, you can see again, really broad coverage. And Annalea, there's a lot of people who need to learn about social nature. So it's a very good day for you and all of us. And thank you for joining again another Wednesday together. I've got my Ethan's Organic Energy drink. I had my Nixie just now, and I'm sipping my Better Belly from Grace's Goodness, and you know, nice to be spending another day with all my friends and all of you. Looks like we've got almost 200 of us. So reminder that this entire series is made possible in partnership with the New Hope Network. And in fact, Jessica represents New Hope, so that's appropriate. And Jessica's gonna also fill you in a little bit on some exciting developments with New Hope coming in the next month. But we wanna thank New Hope for that. Also a reminder, as Carlene said, welcome. Please use the chat to promote yourselves, introduce yourselves, send up any links, but please use the Q&A function so that Bob, Burke, and I can moderate and be sure that your questions do get answered. The other thing I just want to say, and this will come up again at the end, but we obviously are here for one purpose, and that is to make all of us better, more competitive, more successful, survivable, whatever choose your adjective. But we're only as good as you need us to be. So if there are topics that you want us to cover, if there are improvements that we can be making and how we operate, please be sure you fill out the evaluations at the end. We really pay them attention. And the last thing I want to underscore is that this session is being recorded. It takes about a day for the recording to go live, but when you click back on the Hirshberg Entrepreneurship Institute webinar tab on our site, you will see the live, the recordings from all the prior sessions, and obviously this one starting tomorrow. So we're delighted today to have a really interesting topic that frankly the last month has been sort of setting up. Every single session we've had has talked about storytelling and discovery in the post-COVID world. Obviously really crucial for us all. And you could see the range of companies from the very early to the very mature. We're all trying to find new ways of doing business right now. And so it's really appropriate that we've also got with us one of the natural products industry's true gurus. Bob Burke is back with us. Bob, I think, needs no introduction, runs his own Natural Products Institute and does all kinds of advising, has done journeyman CEO work and consulting and sits on many boards and is really just a great connector. So Bob, welcome. Thank you for being back with us.
Thanks, Gary.
And today our speakers, and again, just to remind you the format, we'll hear from each of our speakers to the extent that Bob and I can behave ourselves. We'll try to let them get through most of their presentation without interruption. No promises though, ladies. And then we will of course get into the discussion and the Q&A with our own questions and yours. So again, please use that Q&A function. We're going to begin today with Jessica Rubino, who I had mentioned is the Executive Director of Content now at New Hope. Jessica's I think folks are probably aware on this call, there's been some reorganization at New Hope, and she's now taken on a giant load of responsibility. Content is sort of all of us, right? This is Jessica's a natural products industry expert, content strategist. She's passionate about exploring issues related to health, sustainability, equity, innovation for good. And of course, at New Hope, she works across all of their brands to support healthy business through high quality content, education, data, insights, and events. And so obviously their objective is an informed marketplace that protects the health of people and the planet. And again, we're thrilled that you're here and delighted by the continuing partnership with New Hope Network. Annalea Krebs, who you'll hear from shortly after Jessica, is the founder and CEO of Social Nature, which you're all going to learn about now. It's the leading online discovery platform in the food and health space. Since 2015, Social Nature has helped over 500 natural brands launch their products in-store and online. I predict that after today, it'll be 600. And today, over 500,000 shoppers use Social Nature to discover better products for their next shopping trip. I think more appropriately, I just want to say, I mean, Annalea is on the front lines, as is Jessica, of using alternate means of alternate channels, alternate ways of communicating, which is so desperately needed in today's world where you can't demo, for example. She's recognized as a thought leader on D2C marketing in the CPG industry and loves promoting good stuff without junk. So we've all got that in common. Again, please use that Q&A. We'll depend on it. And with that, I turn it over to you, Jessica. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Gary. Thanks for that introduction. Thanks, Bob, for being here to help moderate this, and Annalea. And thanks, everyone, for joining. I'm so excited to be here. I think this webinar series is such an incredible service to the industry, and so I'm really happy to be a part of it. As Gary mentioned, I am the Executive Director of Content at New Hope Network. I've spent the past about 7 years building up our content marketing business at New Hope, and also our sister business, which is the supply side part of our business. So supply side expos, as well as Natural Products Insider, and now moving into this new role overseeing content across our business. So obviously, content is near and dear to my heart, as is this industry, which I've been in since college when I was an intern at Delicious Living magazine, which was a New Hope publication, and have grown with the company and with the industry. So these are my people, and I'm so happy to be here and connecting with hopefully some new people. So if we go into my deck here, I'll get started. I'm really going to be focusing on the storytelling piece of it. I'm glad we started with that poll because it really just shows how, regardless of how big your business is, where you are in your business, storytelling, branded content, and trial and discovery are key. And these are topics that, again, are relevant to the smallest, super new emerging brands and very established brands, and we're all learning as we go. It's kind of funny, as I'm looking at this picture, it looks like this girl is this illustration. This girl looks confused, kind of. She seems to be throwing her hands up a little bit like, what am I doing? And I think we all have those moments of, what are we doing here? We're experimenting, we're trying new things, but my goal is to share some of the learnings that I've had with working with brands and building out their content marketing strategies, as well as the things that we're learning at New Hope Network right now, as we are all in on this virtual space last year and certainly this year, and then looking forward to and ahead to a hybrid future. On this next slide, I want to just ask a quick question about storytelling. And this can be when you hear a story from your grandmother or your son or your spouse. What happens when you hear a good story? What happens emotionally? What do you feel? And I actually want you to respond to that.
In the chat.
In the chat. Inspired and motivated, you laugh, interested and satisfied, smile, emotional connection to the person, these are all great, right? And I love that connection keeps coming up. And I wanted to show this because I thought it was really interesting. I had just been researching, you know, I'm always researching storytelling and what makes successful storytelling. But I thought that this was so cool that when someone tells a story, the person listening to that story, your brain waves, the brain activity matches the storyteller. And so on this next, Carlene, if you just want to plop up this next little graphic, it just shows what that looks like. So you can literally see, and the reason that I wanted to share this is because it reinforces the fact that there is great responsibility that comes with storytelling. So don't take this lightly, and especially for the natural products industry, where we're so committed to doing work that is going to have a positive impact on people and planet. And brand stories really are about that mission and what you want your customer to believe. So on the next slide here, we can see that there's a lot of different reasons that content marketing matters. That's what I'm going to start out with here, is why content matters. I want to talk a little bit also about changing consumer values. At New Hope Network, we do a lot of research to understand, of course, the marketplace and also consumers, and how these two come together, and what the forces are that are shaping the future of the natural products industry, and how that relates to good storytelling. And storytelling as a tool to achieve transparency. I think we've all gotten a little bit sick of hearing transparency just as a buzzword. What does that really mean? And how can storytelling truly show the people behind the brand, the values behind the brand? And ultimately, I want to share some content marketing best practices. Some of these are programs that I've helped launch and execute, and many of them are not, just things that I'm inspired by within the natural products industry. Next slide. So obviously for this group, I want to focus on why content matters for natural products, brands, and retailers. And we all know that digital content and experiences are critical for businesses to stay informed and consumers to stay informed, to just do business in any way, but also to build community and connection. Again, I love that everyone said connection was top of mind. That's what you feel when you hear a story. And so in a time when people are really craving connection, storytelling is key to that. And because the consumer values are evolving, that just reinforces that storytelling and what happens behind the scenes at a brand matters more than ever. Next slide. So we are certainly evolving at New Hope, and I'm guessing most of you are familiar with New Hope Network and certainly with Natural Products Expo. We had to cancel our in-person shows last year, Natural Products Expo West and Expo East. We have canceled our in-person Expo West this year and are so excited to be having a Natural Products Expo West virtual week in May, as well as a series of events on Natural Products Expo Virtual. This entire platform is focused on discovery, connection, and brand storytelling. Spark Change, which was a labor of love for us last year, is back this year, and that's one of our 5 main milestone events that will happen across Natural Products Expo Virtual. And if you want more information on what we're doing with that platform, please do check out mpevirtual.com. And one of the things that I'm so excited about is whether you've been a part of New Hope Network and our trade shows before, or you haven't. This is a really welcoming environment, and I think every step of the way we need to be looking at how virtual can be our ally rather than a default. And so that's really, really important to emphasize as we talk about brand storytelling and digital storytelling as well. Next slide. So Spark Change, which I touched on a bit, is about discovery and trial for buyers and mission-driven brands. It's year-round brand storytelling. We do some really cool stuff. Our soapbox series, we have lunch and learns and roundtable discussions. I'll talk a bit more about the role of experiences in storytelling, and just building community and doing that in the virtual space. So oftentimes we think about, telling our story as telling, and we're seeing that it's a lot more than just telling. It's listening and learning and creating community and experiences. On the next slide, I just wanted to show maybe 30 seconds of what this looked like for us and how I'm really proud of the ways that we've been building community virtually. This is a snapshot of Spark Change last year and a little sneak peek of what we'll be supporting and how we'll be bringing the community together this year through Natural Products Expo Virtual.
Natural Products community.
Hi everyone, welcome to Spark Change. I'm super excited to be here because I have an undying passion for the natural products industry.
Hi, and welcome to the 7th Generation Product Discovery Zone.
I'm really excited to share with you one of our newest products, our veggie pita crackers.
Our flagship product is Good Wolf Water Kefir.
You can add our paste to any recipe. It's delicious.
I want to taste that right now.
My name is Chef Chu, and as I like to say, as I always say, gonna give you something to chew on.
I'm really excited to talk to you today about my absolute favorite topic in the world, which is garbage.
What do we actually have to do to reverse climate change, create equity in the food system, and save ourselves and all other living beings?
If this is truly a community that wants to bring wellness to everyone's lives, it's time we start acting like it.
All right, thanks, Carlene. Thanks for kind of humoring me, showing that. I love watching that because that all happened virtually. And so hopefully you felt a little bit of the connection and the inspiration that we were able to bring to the community all in a virtual space, but the people, the stories, and just really being able to leverage platforms and technology to achieve these things in a really, really hard year was so critical for us. If we go to that next slide. With all that said, there's so much innovation happening. I think it's worth reminding ourselves that storytelling is nothing new, right? Storytelling has literally been around for thousands of years, which met with many of the same objectives: to strengthen communities and build connection, to share innovations, advancements, and develop new forms of communication. And so it's exciting that we're able to explore all of these new outlets, and we want to stay true to the fundamentals that make good, meaningful storytelling. Next slide. So before you even begin to build out your brand story, these are the questions that I believe are so important to ask. They seem really simple, right? But it's kind of amazing how many companies fail to ask those key foundational questions. What do you really want to say, and what is authentic to your story? I saw a great comment in the chat there that said, first you maybe feel a connection, and then you really say, well, is this aligned with my values, and is this just good marketing and storytelling, or is it authentic? More and more people are asking that question, especially as the natural products industry gets so much bigger and more companies are trying to get in on the action, right? So authenticity is really a key differentiator. And who do you want to reach? And I'll talk a bit more about some audience segmentation stuff in a second, but I do want to ask a question to just get a better understanding of where are people with their content marketing strategies. So Carlene, if you want to put up that final poll question. Oh, I guess we had two additional poll questions. Do you have a content marketing strategy? Yes or no? Or you're working on it now? So is it fully baked? That would be yes, you feel good about it. Short and long-term strategy, great. No, haven't dabbled in it, but looking to. Or you're in the process of figuring out what is your strategy. And the second question is, do you do any virtual sampling? Oh, I lied again. And the third question is, have you participated in a virtual trade show?
Okay, let's see.
Great. Well, it looks like most of you, close to half of you, are working on your content marketing strategies. Some feel like you've got it fully baked. That's awesome. And a few of you not yet, but hopefully in the works. It looks like most people have not yet started any virtual sampling. So the majority have participated in a virtual trade show, but it's close. That's great information to have. And that'll come up, I know, when Annalea presents her portion, especially talking about virtual sampling. So next slide. So this is across industries, right? Like, why do most companies try content marketing? And now content marketing is marketing, right? You can't get into a marketing conversation without touching on content, but it's important to look at just objectives. And this is what most B2C marketers feel that they've achieved with content marketing over the last 12 months. Number one, create brand awareness. I won't talk about that too much. I really want to focus on educating audiences and building credibility and trust. I would say the vast majority of content marketing programs that I've worked on have been with those two key objectives in mind. Brand awareness kind of goes without saying, and I think there's lots of ways you can achieve that. But educating and building credibility, those really require good content marketing strategies. Next slide. And those of you who do feel like you have a content marketing strategy in place, let me know. I'd love to hear what you think you've achieved through that content marketing strategy, whether it be on that list or just something else. But building trust, particularly during the pandemic, is really, really important. This is some Edelman research that's interesting. And we're now in a position where people are trusting businesses more than anyone. And this was pulled from the Edelman piece, but you can really see that it's critical that businesses are doing the right thing. I always say that I couldn't be working in any industry other than the natural products industry. And this is one of the reasons why, is because brands are stepping up and doing the right thing. But the only way that consumers can know that is if you're telling that story. Next slide. So today's consumers are demanding a lot more. I will show a couple of research pieces that we've conducted at New Hope Network, but equality is front and center, right? This has been a really critical time in history, a pivotal time in history, and consumers respect brands that are socially responsible. Personal and environmental health is at the forefront. I didn't show this, but New Hope Network did some research showing that, not surprising, consumers are thinking more about their personal health, but they're also thinking more about environmental health, the health of their communities, and kind of waking up to this global community and thinking more about others. And local economies are top of mind. Local has been an important story to communicate for years in the natural products industry, but now it takes on new meaning, and there are new reasons why people are thinking about buying local and supporting local. On this next slide, we show some of the values research that we've done at New Hope. Again, I don't think this is going to be surprising for anyone, but especially millennials say that purchasing can be a moral decision. And 63% of millennials believe that, 58% of Gen X, and 40% of boomers. And then if you look at that next chart, it's saying that millennials are really willing to spend more for socially responsible practices. But I often talk to companies who are doing amazing things, and they're like, well, we don't want to talk about it. It's a little like, you know, we want to be humble. It's just who we are. And I'm like, no, you need to talk about it, because you talk about it, you shout it from the rooftops, because only then can people support what you're doing, and only then can you scale your mission. Next slide. It's also interesting to look at how consumers, this is some of what I spoke about, but paying more for environmentally responsible practices.
I'm in the middle of a webinar. I cannot talk to you.
Oh, Carlene, Carlene, you got to mute.
Paying more for socially responsible practices, and also a concern for animal welfare and that the moral buying decision. So all of that is heightened right now. And to me, that was a bit of a revelation, like, wow, people are just more conscious now about all the things represented here. And the next slide. This is just showing that consumers are changing and natural retailers in particular. This is a great quote from Jason Stein. We look for partners who are literally trying to change the world. And so particularly for, again, natural retailers, that is going to be something that they look for is the values. It's not necessarily something you can see on a sales sheet, right? And so getting in front of them and sharing your story is critical and also challenging. So we'll talk about how to do that. The next slide, you can see this research that we did at New Hope just recently, which was to really see what different types of retailers are looking for when they want to purchase a new product or get a new brand into their store. And for natural products retailers in particular, meeting company criteria was key. And I thought a lot about whether or not to put this in the presentation. Clearly, I have some time on my hands. I have no life these days. It's okay. But I thought about whether it makes sense to put it in there. And I think it does, because how do you know if a company meets your criteria? Some of those things are certifications, or if we look at product attributes, but it's really more, and then you see environmentally conscious practices, all of those things, but what is a company criteria? And I think the only way to see if there's that alignment is to tell the story and be able to have those more in-depth conversations. Next slide. So I want to ask the group too, which brand stories stick with you? Just throw them out there. Any company that comes to mind when you're like, they have a killer story and it's something that has always resonated with me. What are those? What are those brands? Patagonia. Beyond Meat, Good Karma, Lotus Foods, Organic Valley. And why do those stories come to mind for you? Dr. Bronner's, Tony's Chocolonely. Okay, Carlene, click a couple times so you can see a couple of the ones that I put up here. Dr. Bronner's, Patagonia, Gaia. I think I saw most of these. All of these are so good. Rowdy Mermaid, King Arthur. The reason, I mean, there were countless I could have chosen, but I chose these three because they are so steadfast, right? Like you always know what their story is. I have David Bronner up there. He's the face of that. He has carried the legacy on so well, and he has a voice, and you know what Dr. Bronner stands for. Gaia has told such a beautiful story. I see Burke's Bees in here, Siete Family Foods. These are all amazing, right? And you know exactly who they are. You know the who behind the brand, and you know what they stand for. Next slide. Oh, these are all so good. All the ones that came in. I love all these companies. Their stories are amazing. But we think about here, I want to get into a few best practices, and I'll kind of breeze through these, but I'd love to connect with anyone afterwards. But bringing visibility to your supply chain. This is back to that authenticity, transparency conversation. Here's a video that we did with Sabinza. They are a supply company, so to really show where their ingredients come from. We were in India for this. I won't show it, but it's beautiful. And we were able to really capture what they do in a way that was so personal. You saw students that they work with, communities that they work with. That's true traceability, and you're able to, oh, and certainly Stonyfield in here has a great story. Now I'm looking at all these, but this is a great way to tell your ingredient stories, and I think that that's really important. Heightened awareness around full supply chains, and rather than just saying, yeah, you know, maybe we're vertically integrated, or maybe we have good relationships with our farmers. Who are they? We want to know who they are, just like we want to know who you are. So next slide. A couple other kind of best practices or things that I'm excited about in content marketing is demonstrate how you're taking a stand, right? This isn't for everyone. And I don't think every company should say, you know, we have to be, you know, out there, we have to be an activist. But if you believe in something, show how you're taking a stand and what you're doing about it. And this third one, I think I'm most excited about right now is being vulnerable. the ability for brands to recognize how they need to improve, to make commitments and take customers on that journey. You know, Unilever is an example that I used here, obviously one of the biggest companies in the world, but this is for the smallest and the biggest, right? Show what do you want to do better? And if you mess up, sometimes companies mess up and that's okay too. And show what you're doing to improve. Or if you're a company that wants to have, you know, a higher percentage of organic ingredients in your products, show how you're doing that, rather than being concerned that people are going to ask, well, why weren't you at 100% already? So having those really open, honest conversations is important. Next slide. Next slide. A few more tactical things that I want to talk about before I wrap up is take every opportunity to tell your story. Assume that no one's ever heard your story before. Everyone knows Dr. Bronner's, but they act like they're telling their story for the very first time on the store shelf, at the on the computer, on people's phone, on their label. And I chose these ones because literally their labels tell their stories. And I'm not saying you need to do that, but think about all of the different touch points and always tell that story. I also thought it was interesting. I don't know if anyone else saw this, but Tony's Chocolonely, they just got into a little bit of hot water recently. And I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be, but there's been some controversy around their supply chain. I wanted to keep them up here because I'm curious to see how that company takes this on. And I want to see how they react to it. And I want to see what the verdict is. And it may not be a black and white answer. So I think it's really important to recognize that there's going to be bumps along the way of this storytelling journey. Next slide. And be the expert. You know, a lot of what we talk about here is storytelling and that emotion and that connection. But a lot of the work that I've done has really been focused on just pure education. And by educating the right audiences, you're proving what you stand for. You're proving the commitment to the industry. I think Primal Kitchen's done a great job of developing these communities, online communities of practitioners, influencers, consumers, and seeing how they kind of tailor their message to different audiences. That Influencers That Spark Change image, that was a program that we worked on with a company called Child Life. They do a lot of retail education. This was focused on influencers and those nuances in how you educate and tell stories for different audiences is really key. On the next slide, I showed some CBD programs I've worked on because, of course, education is going to be most critical in emerging categories. And so when, you know, there's these categories that are saturated and everyone's coming into them really quickly, all this fast growth, who's going to stand out? And the companies that really commit to education, whether it be infographics on how to read a label or, you know, fun animated videos on telling the story of quality, those are the companies that will get shelf space, that will earn consumer loyalty. And CBD is just one example, an important one of a category that demanded a lot of education. Next slide. And as I mentioned before, don't just talk, don't tell your story only, listen. I've hosted a lot of conversations through the Spark Change platform in partnership with brands. And those are things where we're getting thought leaders together and we're listening and we're getting feedback and we're hearing what's on people's minds. That's a form of storytelling. That's a form of content marketing. Storytelling, I guess, could be story listening. And so if you listen, you're going to be more connected with your community. Next slide. Here's another cool thing that we've been doing is really marrying product trial and brand storytelling. They go hand in hand. Give someone your product, do virtual sampling, and then get in front of them virtually and have conversations and do Q&As. Won't show this, but please do check it out. It was called the Spotlight Brand Podium. We did it through Spark Brand Success last year. We had one of our events dedicated to highlighting BIPOC brands, amazing stories, amazing sampling products. And it was so cool to see how we could bring those two experiences together. Next slide. Here is one of my favorite examples. I'm such a big fan of what this company does for the industry. NatureAid and Claude Tellis has really become a voice for access in the supplement industry. And everywhere that he appears, he's talking about that mission. And he was a part of our BIPOC Spotlight brand podium, which was awesome. Really cool story there, like all of the examples that everyone's shared. Next slide. And this was something that I did, a great example of like this curated VIP sampling experience. A bunch of us at New Hope did it from Theo. And we're actually doing some cool stuff at Spark Brands, at Spark Change this year, which is focused on creating those types of customized tasting experiences where someone's walking you through. You know, people are doing it with wine and cocktails. People are doing it with natural products. They're doing it with fitness and all these different things, but make it fun and realize like, hey, you can access people all over the world. Don't be afraid to do it. Bring them into your world. Next slide. And I am about to wrap up. I think I have one final note that often people do not think of this one, but be a team player. Your story doesn't have to be only your story. Collaborate with people in the industry, and especially when we're trying to really affect change in the world. This came from the World Economic Forum. It was a piece called How the Great COVID-19 Reset Can Help Firms Build a Sustainable Future. I love it. Collaborations often with traditional competitors help create the systemic changes that our planet and its people need and that businesses need too. If everything fails around us, we fail too. And so storytelling can be a joint effort. On my final slide, well, my second to last slide, I think I show an example of how I've done this with the supplement industry through an initiative called Inside the Bottle. And that's where companies, between 8 and 10 companies, have come together to tell the story of quality and transparency within the supplement industry. Obviously, there's a lot of examples of this. What the Climate Collaborative is doing, all these different initiatives bubbling up in our industry have a shared story. And so partner with those who have the same values and build stories together that can have an impact. 2 slides from now, Carlene, and then I'll wrap up, is I just want to share with everyone one more time. I'll just wrap up with Spark Brand Success is our first Spark Change event of the year, and it's happening next week. As brands, you're the attendees. You create your experience. You're not an exhibitor there. You're not selling anything. You're there to learn. And so I'm really, really excited about this event. These are a few of the sessions that I thought were relevant to what we're talking about today. Writing new rules for marketing and sampling, 4 new marketing best practices, which is a workshop, a really hands-on workshop. Smoketown's partnering with us for brand therapy for mission-driven brands. And then on our final day, which will be March 4th, we have a hiring best practices, new perspectives, and resources for finding diverse talent, as well as a diversity and inclusion town hall. So these are all the things that we believe are important to growing as a brand. Next week, hope to see you there. And with that, I will turn it over to Annalea to talk about more about the sampling and trial part of this. Thanks for letting me have the stage for a minute. It was fun.
Jessica. Annalea, let's just jump right in with you. Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Excited to be here. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So today I'm here to speak to you all about driving discovery and trial in the new COVID world. And so I was thrilled when Gary and Bob reached out to me to speak on this topic, as at Social Nature, we're all about this. And our mission here at Social Nature is to help our community of 500,000 and growing shoppers to make the switch to better products. And over the last 6 years, we've had the privilege of working with over 500 food and health brands who have tapped into this service and driven discovery and trial both in store and online. So I'll be able to speak to both pathways, and it was great to see from the poll today that there's many of you that are already active on both pathways. And so what we've observed and experienced in the product sampling space in the last year is really this convergence of traditional shopper and consumer marketing. And it's starting digitally. And so just to take Social Nature as an example, we have this in-store sampling pathway, but it starts online. And it starts online because we want to geo-target consumers around these specific retailers so that we can drive them into the store to try your products with a free trial coupon. And then in response to COVID, we launched another pathway, another sampling pathway at home. And again, the journey starts online. We use targeting functionality to find the right people in order to give them the right match. And we work with D2C brands that have online sample packs available that we can then drive our community to try. So the shared commonality here between in-store and at-home sampling is the journey starts digitally first. And we're lucky at Social Nature. We've got this 500,000 and growing, really almost a focus group. And so we've taken full advantage of that over the last year, and we've been surveying them every 3 months. How have your shopping habits changed? What are your current health goals? Tell us what's going on. So some of the insights I'm going to share with you today are from as recent as last week. Last week we did our survey, our quarterly survey. And so hot off the press, you're going to be hearing some of the highlights. And then just a heads up, Carlene, if you could share the link to our webinar on March 9th. If you're interested in diving deeper into these real-time consumer insights and learning about trending health goals, consumer habits in more detail, we're going to be dedicating a full hour to that on March 9th in a free webinar. So feel free to sign up for that. All right, so there's been a lot of changes. What is here to stay? What we've found is that everyone is more health forward than ever before. I'm going to take myself as an example here. So these are the themes that are present across our community. But just looking, being honest, I used to grab breakfast on the go, have lunch out every day at the office, and if I'm being really honest, probably to take out 2 to 3 times a week for dinner. I'm a busy CEO, professional. That was my life. Today, I'm eating 3 meals a day at home. And I really enjoy going to the grocery store, whether it's in store or online, and discovering new products to add into my 3 meals a day at home. I'm used to having variety. I have never purchased more new products than in the last year. Preventative health measures. It's taken me 36 years to take supplements on a daily basis. COVID did that. I'm finally taking more preventative health measures, and 45% of our community are as well. I'm exercising more at home. I'm tuning into online yoga. I've got my meditation apps downloaded. I purchased a bike. 41% of consumers are exercising more at home. Taking immune supplements, spending more time outside. These are the themes that are happening for myself, but also across our entire community. And when I ask myself the question, am I going to go back when this is all over to my old ways? No, I've seen the light. I'm healthier, I'm happier. So I'm going to continue to eat as many meals at home as I can and cook more and all the rest. So this is here to stay. And so as a marketer, what we're moving towards is lifestyle marketing, right? When we're thinking of discovery, we're thinking, how can we tap into these current health goals? Can we start to partner with meditation apps, for example, and introduce our products into that health goal? Or can we start to ask our online community members, what are their health goals? I mean, how many of you even know the health goals of your consumers? Perhaps they're related directly to the benefits of your product, and that's great. But is that health goal on your packaging? Are you calling that out and really relating to consumers based on their health goals? At Social Nature, it's become one of our profile questions when community members come and join. We ask them straight up, what are your health goals? And so we're learning really interesting things, like emotional balance is a key health goal for our community. Improving cognitive performance is a key health goal for our community. And we're starting to match people based on their health goals to products. And this is resonating a lot more than calling out the features and benefits. So thinking about how you might bring that into your online website discovery experience, your packaging, and partnering with those communities that have these health-based communities. The other area we've constantly been serving every 3 months throughout COVID has been, what's going on with your shopping habits? How have they changed? And so what's interesting is because we have this before and now data, I can share that, of course, people are shopping in stores less frequently. But what's where did they start? So a year ago, before COVID, people were shopping 2.5 times per week on average, going into the grocery store. Now it's down to 1 time a week on average. So that's a pretty big spread over the course of a year. What's interesting, of course, that they're spending more on every trip to the store. And in our community, 28% never shop online for groceries. And I wanted to call this out because sometimes you read the media and everything and you're like, what's going on? Is everybody going and shopping for their groceries online? Well, hey, there's 28% that don't shop online and haven't yet over the course of a year throughout the pandemic. So interesting to note. Of course, our community, like many others, shop online from Amazon. So I'm sure there's a whole session that's dedicated to Amazon, if not already coming up. That's a whole nother animal. But what I find really interesting is this counterculture. 31% are still choosing to shop locally. This is data from last week, right? This is not 6 months old data. This is last week. So great news for these, emerging brands in the mix. Get onto, your local independent grocery store shelves. Knock on Whole Foods doors, right? These are retailers that are really supportive of local producers, and shoppers are looking for that. They're still looking to support local. So whatever channel you're looking to win on, whether it's online or whether it's in store, what you actually need to start with is winning online first, because the discovery pathway to purchase, regardless of in-store or online, is starting online. So win the discovery path first. So a common misconception, and I'm not sure where it comes from, but I have customers ask me it all the time, are people still buying new products? There's this conception that everybody's just sticking to the aisle and not doing any new product discovery, which is wrong according to our data. So as of last week, 79% of Americans have purchased a new food, beverage, personal care, or household product in the last month. And so for the Canadians on the call, 72% in Canada. And so the webinar on March 9th will go a lot more into depth here, but I did want to call out an interesting factoid for any plant-based brands on the call today. So our community, and these are health-forward, conscious consumers, 4% identify as vegan. However, 70% are regularly purchasing plant-based alternatives. So clearly it's gone mainstream. And this is one from this word chart that you can see here on my screen. This is one of the top new products that people are purchasing, plant-based food and other alternatives. So what is driving this new product purchase? So we talked a little bit about, my example before, where home is the new frontier, right? If I stuck to the same old for my 3 meals a day, it wouldn't be very exciting. So just the other day, I was shopping at my local grocer, and I picked up coconut flour from Bob's Red Mill. And I made these delicious coconut almond flour chia seed scones asked me for the recipe. Really good. And I was so happy to discover this new baking flour. And I never would have really, thought of it before, but I was just eager to experiment with new things in my kitchen because home is the new frontier. So clearly the rest of our community is also looking to spice things up a bit with their products in their household. We also talked about health goals, lifestyle changes, right? So leading with if you're a supplement brand and if the benefit is digestive health, well, let's find out, who has that as an area that they're looking to improve. It was on sale, tried and true. And it was interesting to hear from Gary when we were catching up on Monday that because there's more of a limited SKU set that you can have on the shelf, right? That retailers are looking for more promotions, are looking to increase that velocity in those turns on the shelf. So remember the tried and true tactic, sales, of course, will encourage someone to try something new. And back to how did they find these new products? So I mentioned that online search is the number one. You see it coming up here again. So really making sure that your product landing pages are optimized for search. You see online reviews showing up on the same line here. Google loves reviews. And these reviews can, not only should they be showing up on your web store, but try to get these reviews on your online retailers. This is going to help your discovery, right? If people are going online and shopping on Walmart.com or Target.com or Sprouts.com, do you have reviews on your products on your online retailers? Retailers want this. And so at Social Nature, we've actually partnered with a couple different review syndication providers, including Yotpo, which is great for e-commerce companies that do a high volume of e-commerce and want to syndicate those reviews to their website, as well as third-party retailers like Walmart. Then there's Bizarre Voice and Power Reviews. Those are really the three biggest players. And so we've partnered with all of them so that our online reviews can just be ingested into their systems and suddenly display on all these online retailer websites, or you can just sign up with them directly and get your reviews syndicated through their networks. Contact me, I have a discount at all of them. Secondly, people are stumbling across things, right? So going back, crushing that misconception that people are just sticking to the aisle. Look, they're browsing in store, right? Or online for that matter. And of course, if something's on sale, it's gonna catch their eye and they're gonna wander over there and check it out. And then at Social Nature, well, social is in our name. So we are very passionate about this friends and family social referral channel. My previous business was actually in the daily deal space, still eco-friendly because I love promoting good stuff. But I'm very familiar with this concept of social commerce. So I invite questions around that later today. And what we've seen is at Social Nature, we've included a refer a friend program right through every single touch point that the consumer has with us. So when you first discover a product on Social Nature, once you show interest in it, we invite you to share that product with your friends on social media, and we make it really easy for you to do so. You can do the same thing on your website, right? If someone's clicking on buy now or engaging with the product in different ways, can there be a referral system there? You've got them. Of course, when they've purchased, ask them to refer, ask them to share their review on social media. Some of the apps like Yotpo that I mentioned we've partnered with, they make it really easy. If you're using them to generate reviews on your website, they have social integration baked right into their software so that you can push that review out on social media. And what's more powerful than a friend's recommendation, right? So 12% are converting to new products based on that. And then of course, there's the health experts and the blogs, and Jessica did such a great job talking about some of those content marketing tactics. So you can see those showing up here as well. So I'm gonna be bold here and share our playbook for how we bring shoppers to your online store. And I'm gonna be honest, my sales team was like, Annalea, are you gonna actually literally share the slide decks on the behind the scenes Social Nature? And I said yes, because you can do this by yourself. You can hire Social Nature to do it faster, more predictably, right? But you can do this by yourself. So let's get it out there and get more people doing online sampling. So here's how we do it. So first, we build a product landing page on Social Nature. Again, you can build your own product landing page on your website. There's great tools. Unbounce is a company I've used in the past. Very cost-friendly landing page tools that you can use without having any technical know-how, and create a compelling product landing page. So what does that mean? It means have video, right? So think about that in-store demo experience that you had and all the passion that you were sharing as an educator there. Bring that into your video. Make it short. Don't make it more than 90 seconds. Kickstarter actually has some great tips on how to create good videos if you want to check that resource out. And then very clear call to action, right? In our case, it's apply to try. So funnel the consumer to that landing page, make it easy for them to get involved. Now, if you're gonna give away a free trial, you have permission to ask the consumer a couple questions, right? So this is what we do at Social Nature. We add in a little survey, great opportunity to ask your consumer who's just shown interest in your product, why are you interested, right? Make this about a little bit of market research. Ask them, what drew you to our product? What attribute were you most interested in? What are the other competitor brands you're buying? I mean, you can be flexible and ask the questions you're comfortable asking, but if a consumer is about to get a free trial, they're gonna take the time to answer 3 questions in our experience. Next, share a unique promo code, right? So this is in the pathway of online sampling that I'm describing. So we brought them to your website. And so now share a unique one-time use promo code that they can't suddenly share, with all their friends. Make it special for them and give them a free trial. I'll show a couple examples after this of clients and brands doing this on their own websites. But just remember, it should be a unique promo code, especially if you're giving away a free trial. Shopify and other e-commerce websites have these capabilities. Then the consumer receives the product at their home, right? You've shipped the sample pack to them. They get this fun package, right? It's probably one of the most exciting things that'll have happened in their COVID day. And they'll unpack the box and they'll see, all the different flavors and varieties that you've decided to give them. And a recommendation is to give them a couple different flavors, right? Because what if they don't like the blueberry, but they would have converted on the strawberry? So, put a little top selling SKUs pack together. Then again, you've given them this amazing experience. Ask them for a review. I mean, it's gold, right? And this review you can put on your website, which will help Google, rank you on a higher, on first page or second page. It's going to move your ranking up. And then you can also repurpose those reviews and get them on Walmart.com, Target.com, Sprouts.com through some of these review syndication providers. And lastly, ask for the social share. So we baked this into our playbook here, as you can see. Don't skimp on the discount. Like, don't give them 10% off that everybody else can get on your website if they sign up for your newsletter. This consumer has filled out a survey, has got your products at their home. I mean, this person's pretty along the path. Give them 25% off. 25% off is our sweet spot. And then make it social. Ask them to share their review, or at the very least, the promo code with their friends. And maybe they'll just say something organically. People like sharing stuff with their friends, especially stuff that they like, especially natural, good stuff. I mean, everybody has a personal brand on social media, right? You're going to look pretty good if you're recommending like fair trade coffee or eco-friendly household cleaning detergent. You wouldn't necessarily do the same thing with a conventional product because it's just not that inspiring, but you are going to be happy to share good stuff. So this is our playbook for direct to consumer. These slides will be available for you as well. And so what's interesting,
Annalea,
yes.
Sorry, to interrupt you, but while a question just came up, and since you're right here, Can you speak also about perishables, how they interact with you?
Yes, I do have that playbook coming up shortly, so
Okay,
I'll be able
good,
to speak
good.
to that.
Thanks.
And so we have seen a 56% increase in the United States of people shopping brand direct, so that today 39% of our community is sharing that they're shopping brand direct. Again, very recent stats, so huge growth over the last 6 months. That 56% increase is from August 2020 to February. So pretty impressive growth. And then you see the stats here for Canada as well. Pretty similar, bit less of an increase in the last 6 months, but still, solid showing of people shopping brand direct. This is not shopping Amazon. This is shopping brand direct. So what are the key drivers? I find this first one so interesting, right? I'm sure many of you have experienced this. You've gotten off the couch, you've braved the grocery store, and shoot, I can't find this product, right? And so you go back home and you look online, and that's where, more or less you'll be able to find it more predictably more often. And that's 41%. That's the top reason people are shopping brand direct. Secondly, loved seeing this because we're all natural, organic, health and wellness brands on this call. People want to support the mission of the company. Right on. Love it. Unique bundles, product assortments. Okay, this is interesting because I know there's some tension, right? Like, I want to support my retailer, and should I be really doing this D2C thing? I feel like that's competitive with my retailer. Get out of that thinking. If you have a unique bundle or product assortment online, it's not competitive. You're just opening up the field. That's expanding the customer relationship. And really, there's going to be higher lifetime value with that consumer who's shopping for your product both in store and online. And if they can find unique offerings in those places, everybody's happy. Better customer service. Loved seeing this come up here. And I think I'm going to give a shout out to one of our clients, Olipop. They do such an amazing job with customer service. And speaking of playbooks, if you follow them on LinkedIn, their team, they're constantly sharing tips and tricks and what's working for them. So you'll learn lots along the way, but they have an online chat bot. They have text message enabled for their subscription program. And in their D2C business. They're a beverage company, for those of you who don't know them. So if a beverage company can make it work, it can work for a lot of different categories. And then 17% subscribe and save program. Again, Olipop has a subscribe and save program for their beverages, right? Yes, people are ordering 12 packs, 24 packs of their amazing sparkling beverage. So if you haven't already done it, great way to start with that free trial and then get them into a subscribe and save program for that longer term, larger lifetime value. And so what supports sales of products online? So this is a bit of a summary, but what might stand out here is, why is discount bigger than free product trial? And we have to go back to the heading and how this question was asked: what supports sales of products online? So if you were to ask me, how do I acquire a new customer? I would say free product trial all day long. If you were to say, how do I get more people to shop on my online store that may already be familiar with my brand, discount's fine. So it just depends on if you're looking to kind of expand that existing customer relationship and have them start to buy a unique assortment of products on your online store while still maintaining your retail sales, or if you're really looking to aggressively grow new customer acquisition. And again, you'll see here, the tried and true reviews, recommendations coming up here, and all of Jessica's good stuff around telling your story, creating video content, and so forth plays a big part here. So before moving into the perishable in-store pathway, I just wanted to show a couple examples.
Two minutes, Annalea.
Oh, I just have a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I will move on. So the second pathway is really retail marketing, and this works well for perishables. Again, it starts online first. And the beginning part of this is very similar. Steps 1 and 2, create that product landing page, ask market research questions. Where it changes up is instead of giving them a unique promo code, good old-fashioned direct mail, right? So give them a printed coupon. I would recommend, if your goal is new customer acquisition, make it a free trial coupon. Pop it in the mail. You have their mailing address. You could be geo-target. At Social Nature, we geo-target that consumer and actually can send them into specific retailers, support specific regions. If you already have their address information from your e-com store, you could do the same thing. And then when you're in the store, you're actually bringing that consumer to the shelf. And I had a really powerful experience recently with Primal Kitchen, one of our clients, where they gave me a free trial coupon. I went to my local grocery store to try out their new product. I hadn't tried any of their products before. I hunted down the dressing on the shelf. And then they had included a follow-up list of coupons for $3 off the rest of their product line. And I ended up picking up 3 of their products and checking out with 4 Primal Kitchen products. Now I know, I've had an experience in store, right? So now I know where to find their products in store. I know it's at my local grocer. That's such a powerful experience that is really hard to do with the D2C pathway. So even if you're shelf stable, I would encourage this pathway, because you're really creating that experience in store and that memory imprint around where to buy your product, which will help increase repeat purchases. And so I'll leave this for your reading pleasure here, just in the spirit of time. It is in the deck that you'll receive. And end on what I see here as the winning strategy for driving discovery and trial in the new COVID world, which you can do yourself, which starts online, really fine-tuning your story, building video, building those optimized landing pages, targeting the right consumer, bringing them either into the store with a free trial coupon, or sending them a physical product sample pack with a couple of your flavors at home. And then don't forget, you've given them this amazing product experience. They've had your sample pack or full size. Ask them for feedback, and then leverage those reviews. Get them on the online retailers' websites. Get them on your website, which is gonna tie back Discovered online. And I hope you can join us on March 9th. Feel free to reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn, and looking forward to the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Annalea. And thank you, Jessica. That was, you know, if people are wondering about options and choices, they just got an avalanche of ideas here. I mean, before I go to Bob with the questions, I just have to comment a couple things. First, there's a wonderful, as I expected there would be, symbiosis between your two presentations, because the beauty is that, of course, online is a fabulous place to tell your story, as New Hope's doing for all of us. You know, the idea here that we can't trial, I mean, you guys just blew it out of the water. Some of you have probably seen, and I wanted to comment on the heels of Jessica's, that, you know, your storytelling doesn't have to be about your product. As a matter of fact, it's often more effective when you're not selling. And Stonyfield has a long history of making that case. And each of you talked about that. But just to say, last week for Valentine's Day, we offered 15 minutes with your cow, a date with your cow online. And it got picked up by Good Morning America. It got picked up by Fox. I mean, it had literally hundreds of millions of impressions. And by the way, many hundreds, it might be thousands, I lost track, of folks actually did sign up for their date. And of course, with the date, you know, to Annalea's point, they received, you know, product, they received a coupon, they received some chocolates from some partner brands, to your point about partnering. And so, you know, I think particularly at this stage of COVID, where we've now lapped ourselves, right? It's a year, we're all going crazy. Go crazy, right? That's what I take from you both. Have some fun. it's we're all going to be much more likely to be drawn to somebody who who appeals to us with their sense of humor and humanity. And the final thing I just want to say is I loved your comment, Annalea, about your recommendation. Just go big, go free, right, on that first one. I've never in my life seen grown human beings reduced to mush quicker than when they get something free. It can be a 79 cent cup or $2.59 quart, but free is just, we all become 5-year-olds when we get that little thing in our hands. So thank you for that inspiration. Bob, let's get to your questions.
Yeah, sure. So great job, both of you guys. Annalea, I'm sure Gary will be happy to share sponsorship opportunities with HEI at some point. Absolutely. But for now,
I'll send her a free coupon.
Some folks are asking about what does it take for companies to get involved on your platform? What options, what level of investment, those kinds of things. And then a specific question from Paloma about, do you have an idea of what that average conversion cost is on Social Nature versus either other online or in-store, sampling programs?
So the most popular use case in terms of the customers that use our platform most is they have national distribution in one key account, whether it's Whole Foods or Sprouts or a bigger conventional retailer, or regional distribution in a larger account like Walmart, Target, etc. So you don't need to be in all Walmart stores to work with us. You can be in 2,000 of Walmart stores to work with us because of the geo-targeting capability that we have. We're actually going to ask you for your distribution list. We're going to suck it into our system. We're going to geo-target within a couple different, a couple of small radius around who lives close to those stores. So we can very much work with regional distribution. It's just that we need a certain volume of stores. Typically 1,000 is ideal, but if it's Whole Foods, 500 will work as well. And that's what we need to work with you. Our starting price points, you can get started with us for less than $5K. So it's accessible. And then of course, as you continue to work with us, we have customers spending 6 months on driving new customer acquisition year round. So it depends on your goals and the size of your company, really. And then in terms of how we compare, we are very focused on new customer acquisition. So if you're a brand that's looking to do discounting, just kind of always on, and iBot is a great solution for that, I'll be the first to say. And if you're looking for new customer acquisition to really acquire, market share and household penetration, Social Nature is optimized for that. Product cost is something to consider, right? Because you're giving away a free trial. So that can sometimes be a barrier for emerging brands and really scaling up the volume, because you do need to factor that into the total cost of the program. So there is that to consider. One thing I will share is on the D2C online sampling pathway, we found success with charging consumer shipping. So if you're willing to give away a sample pack that's $10 in value, you can get away with $3.95 shipping charge. And that goes for Social Nature community members as well. They'll pay that to try something new.
Thank you. And Jessica, I know you responded in writing earlier, but a number of people are wondering, as you have more hybrid and virtual events, what kind of response are you getting from retail partners and others that brands especially want to engage with in terms of their participation?
Yeah, well, Bob, thanks to you and others, we are learning so much, and we've basically committed, the past 6 months of having had these virtual events and really learning to just listening to our buyer community and hearing what they need. And of course, buyers, it's not one size fits all, right? We're talking about retailers from, the smallest independents to Costco, Kroger, et cetera. And so we really need to personalize the experience to meet the needs of different types of retailers and different types of brands. So, we've been looking at everything from super tactical things like time of day and duration of events to what does that meeting experience look like? Should it be a meeting experience? Is that what they want? What does the education look like that's then going to be driving buyers to those brands? And so it's all different in the virtual space. And we know you can't just pick up an in-person event and plop it into a virtual environment. And so, I have some really specific information that I'd be happy to share with anyone of what our upcoming events will look like that really takes this feedback in. But I think a lot of it is, very relevant to what we're talking about here, which is marrying a sampling and a discovery and trial experience with the brand storytelling. And in many ways, virtual allows us to break down those barriers and make it easier to achieve those things. So, I think the biggest takeaway is we're listening, learning, and the upcoming events will really reflect the needs of different types of retailers. But I can definitely get more specific with individuals because it's been certainly a big part of my day-to-day over the past 6 months is understanding what that ideal virtual experience looks like.
Great. And this is really for both of you. We talked a lot about storytelling and authenticity. Do smaller companies need to sort of pay for third-party certifications, or are they able to have credibility with the consumer without those?
I can start with that with my opinion. I think in many ways that a certification is sort of that quick hit, right? Like you can get that assurance and it's almost like the initial stage. And I do think, certifications are important. And I believe that if a company can effectively communicate what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they don't have a certification, because I understand there's some barriers to that, financial and just time, right? So if you're working towards it, or if it's something you aspire to have in the future, again, like tell that story. I think that comes back to the vulnerability piece. And I do think it takes more work. The reality is if you don't have a seal on your product, you have to get scrappier. You have to figure out like, how could I tell that story? And I'm guessing you don't have a massive marketing budget either. And so it's getting in front of the right people at the right times, having those conversations, not giving up. And I absolutely think you can earn, trust and build a credible brand in the absence of certifications, but you kind of have to work harder, and the power of storytelling becomes even more relevant. Flip side of that is that if you do have a certification, you still should be working hard. You shouldn't just lean on that certification and think that that's going to tell your story for you, because that should be just the beginning of that storytelling process. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Well, thanks.
Good points, Jessica. One brand I just want to share. I have a massive brand crush on them. They're a Canadian brand. They're called Midday Squares. If you follow them on Instagram, even LinkedIn, they do an amazing job on storytelling. And honestly, this is bad because I have a brand crush on them. I don't know if they have certifications. They could very well. I mean, I have no idea because I've just fallen in love with the brand. So that's just a personal story, and their founders are all so active on video and sharing the behind the scenes, and you just trust them. They write handwritten notes, and they're an emerging brand. So if you really lean in there, I don't even know if they have certifications. They could very well, but I'm in love with them anyways.
Can I feel a need just to comment quickly that, I think Jessica, I agree with your answer. I think certifications are helpful. They're not essential. On the other hand, when you're making claims, and I'm thinking of this fad du jour right now, which is regenerative, whatever the heck that means. But pick your fad, right? I mean, the concept of there is a regenerative organic certification, right? But just be sure you're walking your talk. The problem with making claims is if there isn't a there, you will be found out in today's digital era. So that's the watch out. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, that's good. And so going back to Annalea on, for smaller companies, right, who desperately need trial and discovery, especially challenged with COVID and they're just breaking into the market. And let's say they're under your 1,000 stores or even 500 stores. Are there other recommendations beyond what you talked about as far as do it yourself? Are there other opportunities for them to sort of get that trial and discovery that you might be aware of, or other tips, suggestions that are within their reach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So it doesn't always need to be free. A company that I was going to share but ran out of time, you can Google them, Wise Tea with a W-I-Z-E. What I love about their experience when you go to their website is, at first it presents their e-commerce offering. It's a beverage company again, and you can purchase their products at a discount. If you hang out a little bit for a while longer on their page, they'll say, hey, not ready to buy, the 12 pack? We've got a sample pack for you. You click on that and it shows it's not free. It's $9.99 to try their top 3 beverage flavors. Now, I happen to know that that's roughly the cost of shipping in Canada to ship 3 products. So are they making money on this? No, but they're not out shipping. And I love that strategy. Any emerging brand can do that. And I love that experience that I just described, where you're trying to bring them in for the full size, but hey, if they're hesitating a little bit too long, pop up that trial offer, not free, but still an easy, accessible way to try it and cover your cost of shipping, but make that the cost.
That's great. And, one of the questions is about the trade-off of saving money by having smaller trial size packages versus priming that velocity pump of getting people to pull it off the shelf by sending a VIP coupon or a coupon for a free product. And so how might companies think about that?
So just to paraphrase, free trial coupon versus smaller deluxe sample
that they might send to their home.
Right. Yeah. I'm aware that this cost of producing a sample size can actually be like $3 to $5, I've heard, which might be your MSRP. So if that's the case, I believe that the highest ROI is bringing that consumer into the store, because now they know where to find your product. They know they can probably see on the shelf your family of products, and you're going to have that way of supporting your retailers as well. And every product that's coming off the shelf, that's still increasing your velocity, and it's going to lead to a reorder. So if all things are equal, I would say in store. But if it isn't equal, then be sure to give them enough of an experience. Again, I've seen this happen too often. People will receive a tiny little morsel, and it's just not enough, right? So invest in the deluxe sample. Give them the week supply. Doesn't need to be a month supply, but give them enough where they could give you a solid review. That's kind of your end goal. It's like, what would they say about my product? And is that enough for them to have a good experience? So that would be my 2 cents on it.
Annalea, I'm just because we've only got a couple minutes, there's a bunch of very specific questions for you. You might want to just answer them in the Q&A, but go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, it's a good call. And Jessica, maybe elaborate a little more on how a trial can work at say a virtual show or a Spark Change event. Like, what are the mechanics of that? Are you guys setting up a facility for that in terms of getting stuff distributed to category buyers, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have tons of different ways that companies can participate, get their products in front of buyers. Obviously, it needs to be a more targeted experience when you're looking at, like, what is your current distribution? Who do you need to get in front of? Buyers, to your earlier question, Bob, as we know, they want to see what's relevant to them. And so making sure that the right products are getting in front of them, that they're open to products. And then, retailers are inundated with things. So how can we create an experience that's different from, just having like these like samples thrown at them? So that's where a lot of like the curation comes from. I think there's still an element of serendipity that's really nice about trade shows, is that you can be, walking the trade show floor, you try something, you're chatting with the person at the booth, and you're like, what the heck, this is perfect. How did I meet you? How did I not know you before? So we want to bring that to the experience, and we know that it has to be very targeted. So we have things like, sample boxes that will roll out around the times of the events. We have the Spotlight Brand Podium, which is when storytelling and sampling comes together. We'll have a lot of new things that we're offering for West Virtual, but tons of sampling, and it looks different from a consumer sampling model, and it has to look different. I think the one thing that I'm most excited about is like those VIP tasting experiences that I mentioned that allow for, this kind of, you're taken on a journey through the product and the ideation behind it. And a lot of those things that bring those two worlds together, we're offering that, as well as more kind of traditional sample boxes and category-based boxes, things like that.
That's great. So folks, sadly, we're nearing the end of our time. I do want to comment on both of your presentations that, when I think back to the early days of Stonyfield, limited dollars, the high cost, a trade show was a big expense for us back then. And one of the ways that we leveraged was we found, and each of you mentioned this, so I want to underscore it. We found compatible or simpatico brands, carrots, produce that needed a yogurt dip, fruit that went well in a smoothie. And this was a way of making 1 + 1 = 3, right? We would each be at each other's booths. Well, nowadays, as you've both so beautifully illustrated with your presentation today, we're all trying to make dollars work. The folks who've been attending these webinars have heard an earful about capital efficiency. So I really want to recommend and underscore your comments. Find compatible partner brands whom you can do discounts with. All of a sudden, Annalea's opportunity could become a $10 or $15 freebie when 2 or 3 companies partner together, right? So anyhow, this is a great time for partnership. You've both been absolutely inspiring with your ideas. They're flooding through my little brain right now. So I appreciate that. And Bob, as ever, thank you for bundling all the questions because they were coming fast and furious. Carlene, with the minute that we have left, if you could just put up the closing slide. I just want to underscore Jessica and Annalea's presentations will be made available to you. This has been taped. And so since there was so much information here, go online tomorrow and you'll be able to find it at the website. And obviously their contact information is here. These are our next 4 webinars. As I mentioned, in fact, there is not an Amazon session, although we did do an e-com session 2 weeks ago, Annalea. But next week we will actually, a lot of people say, well, can you even launch in the current market? Well, we've got 2 brands, Nixie, who I mentioned earlier, and Uncle Mac's Organic, who are both launching completely new products during the COVID period. So tune in for them, and then you'll hear some more. We'll be back with New Hope 2 weeks later, and then we get into some financing. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about navigating Costco and Thrive with folks from those firms. Again, please, if you have feedback, use your evaluation. All of us, I'm speaking for the speakers as well as Carlene and me, we welcome your input. If you have suggestions for future topics, if you want to dive deeper into anything that our panelists talked about, please send us your feedback. We're here to serve. And just a final reminder, since we're all pitching our upcoming events, you'll see registration starting very soon, May 5th, 6th, and 7th for the next Hirshberg Entrepreneurship Institute. This is the Boulder one. But just a reminder, we welcome companies to submit their cases if you've got problems or challenges. Folks like the experts you've had today and throughout the series will be on hand to drill deep into a problem or challenge you've got. And then on May 7th, you'll actually be able to pitch for money. We'll have about 50 investors online that day. And so you'll have an opportunity to compete for one of the 16 or so slots to actually pitch for capital. With that, I want to thank our panelists again for just an excellent, excellent job. Bob, thank you. And of course, everybody, we're all indebted to Carlene behind the scenes, even when she has to answer phone calls, annoying phone calls in the middle. Thank you all. Enjoy, stay safe, and we will see you in a week. Take care.